Hey kids, is everybody ready? I should say ready, set, go! Do you know what we're going to read about today? We're going to read about a couple of friends who were really scared at nighttime. Are you ever scared at nighttime and maybe get a little nervous when it's dark? Well, that's exactly what happened to Franklin, and we're going to read Franklin in the Dark. This book is written by Paulette Bourgeois and Brenda Clark, and we're going to read about Bedtime for Francis. This is written by Russell Hoban, and the pictures are by Garth Williams. Both Franklin and Francis had a hard time in the dark, so let's see how they fixed it. Do you think they could fix it? Let's read Franklin in the Dark and see what Franklin did to try and fix it. Franklin could slide down a riverbank all by himself. He could count forwards and backwards. He could even zip zippers and button buttons. But Franklin was afraid of small, dark places. And that was a problem because... check it out. Franklin was a turtle. He was afraid of crawling into his small, dark shell. And so Franklin the turtle dragged his shell behind him. Oh dear, would that be really hard if you had to climb inside of a shell and you were scared? What do you think he's going to do? Let's see if we can figure out what he does. Every night, Franklin's mother would take a flashlight and she would shine it into his shell. See, she would say, there's nothing to be afraid of. She always said that. But Franklin was sure that creepy things, slippery things, oh no, and monsters lurked inside of his small shell. So Franklin went looking for help. He walked until he met a duck. "Excuse me, duck," he said. "I'm afraid of small dark places and I can't crawl into my shell. Can you help me?" "Maybe," quacked Duck. "You see, I'm afraid of very deep water. Sometimes when nobody is watching, I wear my water wings. Would my water wings help you?" "No," said Franklin. "I'm not afraid of the water." So Franklin walked and walked until he met a lion. "Excuse me, lion, I'm afraid of small dark places and I can't crawl into my shell. Can you help me?" "Maybe," roared the lion. "You see, I'm afraid of great loud noises. Sometimes when nobody is looking, I wear my earmuffs. Would my earmuffs help you?" "No," said Franklin. "I'm not afraid of great loud noises." So Franklin walked and walked until he met a bird. "Excuse me, bird, I'm afraid of small, dark places, and I can't crawl inside of my shell. Can you help me?" "Maybe," chirped the bird. "I'm afraid of flying high, and I get dizzy and I fall to the ground. Sometimes when nobody is looking, I pull my parachute. Would my parachute help you?" "No," said Franklin. "I'm not afraid of flying high and getting dizzy." So Franklin walked and he walked until he met a polar bear. "Excuse me, polar bear, I'm afraid of small dark places and I can't climb inside my shell. Can you help me?" "Maybe," growled the bear. "You see, I'm afraid of freezing on icy cold nights. Sometimes when nobody is looking, I wear my snowsuit to bed. Would my snowsuit help you?" "No," said Franklin. "I'm not afraid of freezing on icy cold nights." Franklin was tired and hungry. He walked and walked and walked until he met his mother. "Oh, Franklin, I was so afraid you were lost." "You were afraid? I didn't know mothers could be afraid," said Franklin. "Well, did you find some help?" she asked. "No. I met a duck who was afraid of deep water." She said. "Then I met a lion who was afraid of loud noises." She said. "And then I met a bird who was afraid of falling and a polar bear who was afraid of freezing." "Oh," she said. "They were all afraid of something." Said Franklin. It was getting late. Franklin was very tired and very hungry. They walked and walked until they got home. Franklin's mother gave him a cold supper and a warm hug, and then she sent him off to bed. "Good night, dear," she said. Well, Franklin knew what he had to do. He crawled right inside his small dark shell. He was sure he saw creepy things, slippery things, and a monster. But he said a very brave "good night." And then, when nobody was looking, Franklin the turtle turned on his night light. Did he find a way to be safe? It's light inside of his shell with his night light, isn't it? Sometimes we have to do things that we're a little nervous, but we can make them work, can't we? All right, let's see what Francis does. Bedtime for Francis. Sometimes it's really hard to go to bed, and Francis was not really wanting to go. The big hand on the clock is at 12. The little hand is at 7. It is 7 o'clock. It is bedtime for Francis. Mother said, "It is time for bed." Father said, "It is time for bed." Francis said, "I want a glass of milk." "All right," said Father. "All right," said Mother. "You may have a glass of milk." Francis drank the milk. "Carry me to my room, Father," said Francis. "All right," said Father. "Piggyback," said Francis. So Father carried her piggyback to her room. Father kissed Francis good night. Mother kissed Francis good night. Francis said, "May I sleep with my teddy bear?" Father gave her the teddy bear. Francis said, "May I sleep with my doll too?" Mother gave her the doll. "Good night," said Father. "Good night," said Mother. "Did you kiss me?" said Francis. "Yes," said Mother. "Yes," said Father. "Kiss me again," said Francis. Father kissed her again. Mother kissed her again. They closed the door. "May I have the door open?" said Francis. Father opened the door. "Good night," said Mother. "Good night," said Father. "Good night," said Francis. Francis could not sleep. She closed her eyes, but she still could not sleep. So she began to sing a little song about the alphabet. She made up the song as it went along. A is for apple pie, B is for bear, C is for crocodile combing my hair. D is for dumplings. Francis kept singing through E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O. Q, R, Q, and P. And then she had no trouble until she got near the end of the alphabet. S is for sailboat. T is for tiger. U is for underwear down in the dryer. Frances stopped because dryer did not sound like tiger. She started to think about tigers. Baby tigers and big tigers and little tigers and mother and father tigers, sister tigers and brother tigers, and tigers and uncle tigers, aunt tigers. I wonder if there's any tigers around here, she said. Frances looked around her room. She thought maybe she could see a tiger in the corner. She was not afraid, but she wanted to be sure. So she looked again. She was sure she could see a tiger. She went to tell Mother and Father. "There's a tiger in my room," said Frances. "Did he bite you?" said Father. "No," said Frances. "Did he scratch you?" said Mother. "No," said Frances. "Then he is a friendly tiger," said Father. "He will not hurt you. Go back to sleep." "Do I have to?" said Frances. "Yes," said Father. "Yes," said Mother. Father kissed her. Mother kissed her. Frances went back to bed and finished her song on the way. She closed her eyes again. She still could not go to sleep. Frances opened her eyes and looked around. She saw something big and dark. Giants are big and dark, she thought. Maybe it's a giant. Oh, I think it is a giant. I think that giant wants to get me. She got up and went into the living room. Mother and Father were watching television and having tea and cake. Frances said, "There is a giant in my room. May I watch television?" "No," said Mother. "No," said Father. Frances said, "The giant wants to get me. May I have some cake?" Father gave Frances a piece of cake. Father said, "How do you know he wants to get you?" Frances said, "Isn't that what giants do?" Father said, "Not always. Why don't you go ask him what he wants?" Frances went back to her room. She went right over to the giant. She said, "What do you want, giant?" She took a good look at him. This was no giant. It was just the chair and her bathrobe. So she went to bed again. Frances was not very tired and did not close her eyes. She looked up at the ceiling. There was a crack in the ceiling, and Frances thought about it. Maybe something will come out of that crack, she thought. Maybe bugs or spiders. Maybe something with a lot of skinny legs in the dark. She went to tell Father. He was brushing his teeth. Frances said, "Something scary is going to come out of the crack in the ceiling. I forgot to brush my teeth." Father said, "You brush your teeth and I will have a look." Frances brushed her teeth. Father came back and said, "Nothing could come out of such a little crack, but if you're worried about it, get somebody to help you watch it, and you can take turns." Frances told her teddy bear to watch. They took turns for a while. Then Frances got tired of it and told Teddy to do all of the watching. Frances got up and went to the bathroom. When she came back, she was not sleepy at all. The window was open, and the wind began to blow the curtains. "I do not like the way the curtains are moving," said Frances. "Maybe there is something waiting, very soft and quiet. Maybe it moves the curtains just to see if I'm watching." She went into Mother's and Father's room to tell them. They were asleep. Frances stood by Father's side of the bed very quietly, right near his head. She was so quiet that she was the quietest thing in the room. She was so quiet that Father woke up all of a sudden with his eyes wide open. He said, Frances said, "There is something moving the curtains. May I sleep with you?" Father said, "Listen, Frances, do you want to know why the curtains are moving?" "Why?" said Frances. "That is the wind's job," said Father. "Every night the wind has to go around and blow all the curtains." "How can the wind have a job?" asked Frances. Everybody has a job, said Father. I have to go to my office every morning at 9 o'clock. That is my job. You have to go to sleep so you can be wide awake for school tomorrow. That is your job. Frances said, I know, and Father said, I have not finished. If the wind does not blow the curtains, he will be out of a job. If I do not go to the office, I will be out of a job. And if you do not go to sleep now, do you know what will happen to you? I will be out of a job, said Frances. No, said Father. I will get in trouble, said Frances. Right, said Father. Good night, said Frances, and she went back to her room. Frances closed the window and got into bed. Suddenly there was a noise at the window. She heard bump and thump. I know something will get me this time, she thought. She jumped out of bed and went to tell Mother and Father. But when she got to the door, she thought about it some more and decided not to tell them. She went back to her room. Frances heard the noise at the window again. She pulled the covers over her head. I wonder what it is, she thought. If it is something very bad, Father will have to come and chase it away. She pulled off the covers and stood in her bed so she could look out the window. And she saw a moth bumping on the window. Bump and thump. His wings smacked the glass. Whack and smack. Whack and smack made Frances think of it being in trouble. And all of a sudden, she was very tired. She lay down and closed her eyes so she could think better. She thought, there were so many giants and tigers and scary and exciting things before that I am pretty tired now. That is just a moth, and he is only doing his job, the same as the wind. His job is bumping and thumping, and my job is to sleep. So she went to sleep, and she did not get out of bed again until Mother called her for breakfast. Sometimes is it hard for you to go to sleep? Sometimes it's hard because you're scared, and sometimes it's hard because there's so many things to see and do, and sometimes it's just hard to go to sleep. But if you try hard enough, can you find a way to not be scared and find a way to go to sleep? I know you can, because you are amazing. I love being with you. See you later, alligator. In a while, crocodile. You're awesome, possum. See you next time.